This is the official title. This special meeting and study session to order at 6 o'clock on January 13th. Can we start with a roll call to establish quorum?
Student Trustee Chodak?
Here.
Student Trustee Shepard?
Here.
Trustee Boyd?
Here.
Trustee Khan?
Here.
Trustee Hopwood?
Yeah.
Vice President Inglis?
Here.
President Mahoney?
Here.
Superintendent Stone? Here. Thank you.
Mic adjustment. Can we have the student board members read our mission statement and meeting norms, please?
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Number 1, maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Number 2, ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Number 3, endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's belief in what is best for students. Number 4, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind, while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Great, thank you. And now we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. And can I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Great. For the next item, we're going to move into the main item for the night. We're going to move into the study session on budget development and strategic planning. Before we jump in, is there any public comment on this agenda item? I'm seeing none. Let's move on to the agenda item.
All right, good evening, President Mahoney, trustees, and our amazing administrative team here tonight. We have our site leaders, our principals, and our executive team members here. Tonight we're going to be talking about, this is a study session to talk about how budget is developed and how strategic planning happens around that. I do want to just note that this is not a budget session. We're not talking about what we're going to do in our budget. We're talking about how we make those decisions. And part of tonight, the intention is to really understand how districts get the money to budget and how our dollars actually are what we use to make our strategic plan come to life. Uh-oh. Oh, it worked. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk first about what is a budget, how does it tie to the district's values. We're going to talk about budget development at a glance. So we're going to start kind of big at the state level, then at the district level, and then what that looks like at school sites. We're actually going to talk a little bit about, we're going to do a little foregrounding of something that we're going to be starting across the district through some of our budget development town halls, but also through other engagements. And really what that is going to do is help us to create a strategic plan for the future. And that's our graduate profile or portrait of a graduate. We're going to ask for a little bit of guidance from the board tonight about what the board would like to see us do in terms of next steps, in terms of community engagement around understanding budget development, and then we'll close. Oops, I keep going backwards, sorry. So the purpose and outcomes for tonight, we want to create a shared understanding of California's school budgeting system. A month back, when I did a board report, I kind of foreshadowed tonight and shared that it's budgets for schools, especially in California, are very complicated, and we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about our specific budget development process in Alameda Unified School District, how it's shifted over the last couple of years. We're going to connect some of our decisions, or we're going to talk about how we connect our decisions to student outcomes and our emerging graduate profile. And we're going to identify some priorities for follow-up community town halls and other engagements. So I have a glossary of terms. You have these printed out. As I've said before, educators can have an entire conversation only using acronyms, and every educator would completely understand it, and no one else would know what we are talking about. And so these are a lot of the acronyms that might come up tonight. Just want to be cognizant that we try not to use acronyms, but if they do come up, this is what they stand for. And of course, at any point, if anyone has a question about even what they mean, not just the acronym, but the actual term, please stop us and let us know. Why is it not going? Oh. Okay. So for us to create a budget or a plan, we really do have to engage the community. I think that when we talk about this, there's kind of a compliance aspect of it that school districts have to do. And at the core, it's beyond that. It's about ensuring that every single student gets what they need, each and every. And the way we do that is we hear from our community and we center our students and we center our student voices. And so we want to really make sure that as we're moving through this budget development process this term, we're staying student-centered. We're using data to make our decisions. We're keeping our budgeting and our conversations in close proximity to where the students are, which means that that's at the school sites, the closest to where the students actually are expending every single day. We're working to align our spending with our planning. If we have something written in a plan and we haven't budgeted for it, it's going to be really hard to do that thing. And the reverse is if we're spending money on something and we haven't actually created a plan around it, that's actually not a good use of funding. So we're really working on that. One of the things I heard loud and clear when I did my listening campaign when I first came in, and I continue to hear it, is people want transparency. They want accountability, but they also want to understand how we're using our dollars. And the goal around community engagement is to create shared ownership. So I love this quote. The budget is not just a collection of numbers. It's an expression of our values and our aspirations. And so I'm not going to just hear my own voice tonight. I'm actually going to call on people to help me tonight. And so I know that we already read our vision and our mission, but I would like for us to do it again. So I'm going to ask somebody, could be anybody, to read out the vision loud, because this is part of our values. Go for it. Thank you.
Vision. Each and every student is empowered to realize their fullest potential, ready to lead, contribute, and thrive in an ever-changing world through the support of a diverse, engaged, and committed community.
Thank you. And if someone could read our mission. Thank you.
Mission. Albany Unified School District provides an excellent public education that empowers every student to achieve their fullest potential. We honor the unique ways students learn and are committed to creating inclusive, supportive, and collaborative learning environments. By valuing individual strengths, celebrating differences, and fostering critical thinking, we ensure that every student is prepared to contribute to a just and joyful world and thrive as productive members of society.
Thank you. So what's exciting is that our mission and our vision are starting to create a road to where we want students to be when they graduate. But what we don't have clear, and we haven't developed yet, is exactly what does it mean to be prepared to contribute to a just and joyful world and to thrive as productive members of a society. And that's where, as we continue to move forward this year and as we start to develop a new LCAP, because our LCAP will be ending after 27, and the LCAP should be our strategic plan. So as we're creating that, we really need to understand what is it that we're trying to do there. We also do have a set of values. And so again, I'm going to ask folks to read out loud the values. And anyone from our admin team can also join in.
I'll take the first one. We believe in equity and excellence. Every student deserves access to high quality, rigorous, and inclusive learning experiences that honor their potential and ensure that they are prepared to thrive.
We believe in student-centered learning. Students flourish when they experience agency, belonging, and wellness in safe, supportive environments designed to meet their individual needs.
We believe in collaborative leadership. Shared leadership and transparent, accountable systems are crucial for building trust, driving improvement, and fostering a culture of learning.
We believe in honoring individual strengths. Each student brings unique gifts, identities, and ways of learning. Recognizing and valuing these differences is foundational to meaningful education.
We believe in the power of community partnership. When educators, students, families, and community partners work together, we create schools where everyone belongs and every student is empowered to lead, contribute, and thrive.
Thank you so much. So in order to uphold those values and to put basically our money where our mouth is, it's important that our budget process is one that aligns to hearing about how we can do that the best way possible, and that means that we have to be really transparent. We have to have these community engagements, we have to listen, and we have to understand. And if we say that that's what we want to do, then our dollars should show that. We have to look at some trends. We have to understand the numbers. So when we are budgeting, I think probably the most important thing about budgeting 101 in school budgets is that enrollment drives the dollars. But it's not just enrollment. So we could say we have 10 students, but if only 8 students show up every day, we get money for the 8 students. We don't get money for the 10 students. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And really it's about a percentage too. So, you know, if we're gonna talk today about bottom line, 100% of our budget is this. But if we only have a 95% attendance rate, we're only gonna generate dollars at a 95% rate. That's incredibly important. And so I do think that one way that we can, as a whole entire community, really think about that is thinking about how can we ensure that our students are attending most of the time. That's a way to generate dollars. Also, turns out, it's hard to learn when you don't go to school. We need people to go to school so they can learn. So both of those things are true. And also there's a lot of things we need to do to make the schools the places that we want them to be so all students feel like they can attend and be valued and belong. So that's all work that we need to do. But bottom line, 101, enrollment drives how many dollars we're gonna get. Attendance is actually where we get to cash the check. Again, we want to make sure that everything is student-centered, closest to the kids, closest to the classrooms. Very important is that we have fiscal stability. We are mandated to have a certain percentage of a reserve, a 3% reserve. That's our mandate. That means that's like our savings account, basically. That's if, for whatever reason, something terrible happens and the money doesn't get generated, that means we can pay our bills, keep our lights on, pay our pay our employees, ensure that we are, continuing to move forward. If we dip below the 3%, well, that can create a terrible compliance issue for us, and we could get taken over by the state. There's a lot of things that could happen. But at the end of the day, even worse, is that we wouldn't be able to pay our bills. We wouldn't be able to pay the people that work here. So we have to make sure that we're maintaining that 3%. More important than that is that the savings account matters. So we have to think about what is it that we would need for a certain amount of time if for some reason the money isn't coming in, and make sure that we have a reserve that's appropriate for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we have a long-term healthy district in terms of our fiscal resources. Deficit spending erodes over time, and that can erode the impact that we have on our students and what we can do. So all of these things are important, and these are all things we're paying attention to as we're developing budgets and as we're thinking about long-term planning. So we could plan for next year and spend all of our dollars, great. Is it gonna be something we can do year over year? And if it's not something we can do year over year in a fiscally responsible way, then it's really not a good plan. So why is budgeting for schools and districts so challenging? Well, here we are. It is January 13th. Last Thursday, the governor basically released his proposed budget. It's not the budget. It's not like the guarantee. It's not like the dollars are in the bank. It's, yeah, we think we can maybe do this. Sure. And the state won't actually know what its revenue is until after April 15th. So keep that in mind. April 15th is tax day. That's when the state actually knows what they have to spend. So the governor has proposed a budget on money that they don't even know if they're getting. Districts, per ed code, have to make budgetary decisions that impact staffing by March 15th. So we don't know how many dollars we're going to get. The state doesn't even know how many dollars they're going to get until April 15th, and yet districts already have to make decisions by March 15th. Well, you don't just make a decision on March 15th. You have to make those decisions prior. You have to really understand, what are we trying to do next year? And all of this is connected to student enrollment. So we also have to have pretty decent enrollment projections to be able to even understand what it is that we're going to need for that March 15th deadline. So we're building our budgets before we have any idea of what our known final funding is going to be. We have a projection, we have a thought, but it's almost like looking into a crystal ball in some ways. We do, and we are getting better and better at creating the systems around enrollment projections. We've put some really good systems in place, and we're working really hard on that. And yet it's also still a little bit of a dart throw. We think it's going to be this, but we're not sure. So that all happens. And then May 14th, the governor releases the May revision. So January 10th, he says, this is what I think we're going to do. We do all of our budgeting. We've done everything. And then May 14th, he's like, actually, it's this. So then we have to actually go back and see, okay, did what we project work? Did it not? Where do we need to make adjustments? And then we have to do our final lock-in by June. But the legislature doesn't even pass the budget until June 15th. So all of these things are happening at the same time. It's I don't have a better way of saying it, it's kooky. It's like, it just doesn't really make sense, and yet this is how districts budget. I want to pause here and see if there are any questions. Anything I could explain better? Anything or any other things that Linda, you might want to add? Rena, any of the team? You might need to use the right microphone, sorry.
Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I would just add or ask Linda to explain what a 3% reserve really actually means in terms of like how many weeks or months of operating expenses that can actually cover for us?
Thank you for that. That's a great question. So on average, the district spends about $200,000 a day. So if you're thinking about our 3% reserve, which is like a little over 2 million, we could survive for 10 days, which is typically not enough. But obviously, we're not managing cash per se. But the 3%, I want to say, is a reminder that that's just the minimum reserve. That's not the maximum reserve that they're recommending.
All right, thank you. Any other thoughts? Yeah, please.
It's also about the 3% reserve. Is that like a turnover each year, or is it like we only get 3% each year and then that money goes away for the next year?
So each year when we're building a budget, we have to make sure that we're factoring in that we have 3% left over, whatever commitments that we've made, out of our total expenses, and that includes unrestricted and restricted funds. And so that changes. If we spend less, the 3% reserve is less. If we spend more, the 3% required, it becomes higher as well.
Consol, I see a question.
So does that mean like the 3% is continued on from last year? Like, just like is it stored up, or is it, are you saying that it's just like factored in and used and then it's a new 3%? Sorry, I just like didn't understand that.
Great question. It's factored in, it's used, and then we have to make sure we have another 3%.
And again, that's the floor. That's what we must have. But if you're looking at how much money we spend every day and we think about the operating costs, 3%, yes, it's good. We're glad we have it. I would feel safer if we had more, just because we want to make sure we can pay our bills.
I'll ask a quick question back on that subject. So I know you told us this before, but just for everyone's benefit, what's the typical amounts? We have 3% as a minimum, but with our like comparable school districts or neighboring school districts, what's the average for their reserve?
I think it varies across the board. The average usually is somewhere swirling around 5 to 7%. But to Consel's point, if we were to actually say we saved it and we squirreled it away, that means you'd have to stop deficit spending if we're going to do that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I've already explained this, but I just want to look again. So we've spent November and December, and we're continuing in January to figure out our enrollment projections for next year. Like I said, imperfect science, but what we're doing is we're using the last 5 years average and kind of taking a look at, okay, somewhere in the middle is what we think would be a conservative enrollment projection. That said, we did our absolute very best to do enrollment projections for TK this year, and lo and behold, they keep coming, which is wonderful. We're so happy. We love our 4-year-olds coming every day. We didn't necessarily know that we would get that many. And so we're going to have to continue to really kind of figure out that grade level. One thing to just note is that this is the first year that we have the full age group. And so probably more and more families are realizing that this is something they can do, and it's actually saving them probably some money, not having to go to childcare. And we love having them, and keep coming, please. We love them. But it's hard because we don't know how many we're going to get. Again, December, January, we're doing our budget and staffing projections. Next week, our principals are going to get what we call our budget one-pager, and we'll show that in a little bit. And that's going to show what their enrollment projections are, their staffing projections, the space allocations that they have at their school site. Because the other thing that is so important to remember is we have to make sure that we have enough space for all of our classrooms and for all of the things that we're trying to do. And so we know that some of our schools are a little squishier than others, and so that also matters in terms of where we're going to place different programs and how many students we can actually serve. December through February, and I know that our principals have already started some community engagements, but that is really the time for listening, for explaining what we've done in the past, for looking at our past goals, our LCAPs, our SIPSAs, our school site plans. I'm going to get better at not using acronyms. And spending time talking to the community. So principals are meeting with their staffs, they're meeting with their instructional leadership teams, they're meeting with their school site councils, other community groups, PTAs, et cetera. And really, at this point, they should be looking at data, how the money's been spent before, and if that's the best way to use the money. I do want to just name that, and we'll see this later in the presentation, but most of our money goes to staffing. So we have a very slim little sliver of money that we would say is discretionary. And so it's a really tricky, again, it's like I said before, it's a little kooky because we want to do all of the things to get to the mission and vision and to enact our values. And again, we have what we have to spend, and most of it goes to staffing. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. After we've done some of this, governor's budget is proposed. We got that. We'll talk a little bit about what we saw in that, although I have to say I don't think we're 100% prepared tonight to really understand it yet. We're going to be going on Tuesday to a meeting to better understand the governor's budget and what they proposed. But it looks okay. It doesn't look as completely horrible as I thought it might. And again, we don't know if it's really going to be the real budget. February and March, we're doing what we call budget lock-ins. So budget lock-ins are where we meet with the site leaders. They should have had engagements at school sites. They should have been talking to staff, to community, really understanding what it is that people want to see the money spent on and what the goals are for the school site plans. And then we're going to sit and we're going to have conversations with them. We're going to look at their enrollment projections. We're going to have a conversation. Does this look right? Principals often actually have sometimes a better vantage point of like, yeah, that doesn't really look right. I don't understand why that enrollment projection is what you're saying. I've been here for 5 years and it never has been like that. So those are the conversations we're going to have. We're going to kind of look at those. Again, enrollment is going to drive the dollars, right? We're going to look at the dollars. We're going to look at basic staffing. Basic staffing meaning there is a teacher in front of every child during every class period. There is a principal, there's a custodian, there's office staff, there's yard supervision or campus supervision, and some of those other things that are just like core basic. We have to have it. Our prep periods have to be staffed, so we currently use our specials teachers for that. And we have to have our A through G aligned courses and the correct courses for our graduate. The word is escaping me, Darren. To be able to graduate. What is the word? Thank you, requirements. That's the word. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so we need to do that. And also at that point, we want to start, if we know that we're going to have openings, we want to start hiring. Teachers, especially teachers who are really high quality teachers who know that they're going to be moving on, they start looking for jobs January, February. We do not want to be waiting until the end of the school year to find our staffing. We really want to start now. And so for that reason, we are, not just our teachers this year, we're asking everybody, including administrators, are you thinking that you are coming back next year? We hope that you are, and if you're not, please let us know so we can start our hiring process as soon as possible. It's really for planning. It's again, we want every single person to come back. We appreciate them, and we also, the sooner we know, the better. Then May, June, we have our May revise. We kind of look at it. We do what we call scrub. We scrub the budget. That sounds like a funny term, but that's what we're doing. We're like looking at the dollars and making sure they're clean. And we're completing our LCAP, our site plans, and then we're going to be bringing our budget to the board for approval. Questions about this? Comments?
We do have a question in the audience, and given that this is a study session, I'm inclined to just have the question come up. My first time doing this. Let's see if we can do this. Mr. Martinez, do you have a question? How do I take him off? You got it. Thank you, Julie.
Hi, thank you. Can you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for putting this meeting together and for including audience. I think it speaks volume on transparency. One of the things I wanted to ask is, how did the parcel tax revenue reduce the district's reliance on the general fund, and how does that support maintaining the 3% reserve? Has it made it better to where the portion of the district's structural deficit will fall less onto the general fund if as the parcel exists now? That's my second question.
Thank you. I'm going to let CBO Wu take a stab at that one.
Thank you for a great question. It could be two-folded, convoluted, and so forth, so I'll do the best I can to kind of explain how the parcel tax helps to support the school district. As you know, Albany Unified School District is not one of the larger school districts as some of our neighboring cities like Berkeley Unified, Oakland Unified, San Francisco Unified. Those school districts actually qualify for a lot more funding, but because our unduplicated percentage is actually below 55%, we don't qualify for the concentration portion of LCFF funding. And so therefore, in order for us to operate as a regular school district, even for basic functions, a parcel tax was actually passed to help support those operations.
Okay, so what it has done is basically where we wouldn't, the areas where the general fund has been limited due to the fact that Albany does not fall under a lot of the other schools, that has helped subsidize that amount, and therefore it has, correct me if I'm wrong, it has not made that much of an impact on helping the 3%, is that correct?
It cannot, on a technicality standpoint, it cannot be used as a part of reserving the 3%. The 3% reserve has to come from unrestricted general funds. And so with that said, it is helping to offset expenses that would have otherwise been charged to unrestricted funds. So in that way, it's contributing, but it's not actually being held as part of the reserve.
Oh, thank you. No, I understand. I was just wondering the impact it has had on not having to use so much of the general fund. But I appreciate that because this helps not also understand that, but as a community to see where we need to come in and see how we can help too. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for your question. I appreciate it. And I think we have some more on that a little bit later in the deck.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a few slides, and we're going to take a look a little bit at different districts and how they get funded just in our county. Okay, any other questions about this process? Again, this is very complicated, and I've been an educator for 33 years, and I think I finally kind of, sort of understand it. Just kidding, I understand it, but it is very complicated. Okay, moving forward. Okay, so basically what the governor talked about last week was how he has decided how he thinks he wants to allocate the funds that are going to come in through taxes. So what I want to be really clear about is I think people are under the misunderstanding that our local property taxes just go straight to our schools. They do not. What happens is the taxes go to the state. The state then takes a look at all the things that the state has priorities around and then reallocates back out to different departments and priorities the money. So currently, what we've noticed is about 42% goes to Health and Human Services of the state revenue. 25.1% goes to K-12 education. 7.2 to higher education, which would be community colleges and four-year colleges, 5.6 to transportation, 5.5 to corrections, and 14.6 to other state services. I do not know what those are, so please do not ask. When we get our funds, so of that 25.1% that gets allotted to the different districts based on what is called the local control funding formula, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. That means that there's a basic amount that every district gets, period, based on enrollment. Then there is above that what's called the supplemental dollars, and I might as well go to the slide. Well, no, I'll wait to the slide. There's a supplemental dollars that we get on top of that, and that is based on what we call our unduplicated students. So those are our foster youth, our English learners, our multilingual learners, and our blanking up. Our free or reduced lunch count. Another way that the community can help us, just so you know, is I know that every year we ask for people to share a statement of whether or not they might qualify for free or reduced lunch, even though we have universal lunches. That form that gets filled out actually helps us because it helps calculate how many of our unduplicated students we have. And if we have the threshold to get more money, it helps us. So I know that that's sometimes a challenge for a community, especially when they're like, I don't need it. We all get free lunch. It doesn't matter. Why are we doing this? The reason why we're doing it is it's more data, and it's the data that the state uses. So we get about 80% of our funding from the state. 15% from our parcel tax. So thank you for that question. 1%. Not even really almost 1% from our federal funds. So I've gotten a lot of questions. With all the just uncertainty at the federal level and the Department of Ed closing and all of the things, what is that doing to our budget? It's not really doing much to our budget, honestly. It's not good. It's not good that it's not stable, but it's not actually impacting Albany Unified's budget in the same way. And we get some remaining funds for small local sources. I will say school care, Albany Education Foundation, the Music Fund, the booster clubs, everyone who's raising money for us, it's so helpful, and we appreciate it so much because it actually goes towards helping us to offset just the disproportionate amount of money that we get to serve our kids. So again, I just want to go back. State collects taxes and redistributes. Our local property taxes do not go to our schools. We are not what is called a basic aid district, and I am not going to do basic aid 101 tonight because that is a whole other, we could do a whole study session on that, but basically we do not qualify to be a basic aid district. Basic aid districts tend to use their local tax dollars for their schools, and actually it's great because they have a lot more money to spend because of that. All right, so we have the 4 primary funding buckets. We have our local control funding formula, which is unrestricted. We have the little federal dollars, the state dollars, and the local dollars. And so, Linda, do you want to explain this slide a little bit better than I am?
This just breaks out the 4 flavors of funding that we get. We talked about the LCFF, the unrestricted funds, which is driven by attendance. The federal funds that we get, the $1 million that we get, is really to support some of the special ed education programming. Well, we get things like Title I, II, III, and IV primarily to support some of the intervention and ELD supports over at Ocean View. The state funding comes in at about $10.7 million, which is made up of things like lottery. We do also get state funds to support special education and so forth. I won't give you the laundry list, but just kind of an idea of what falls into that. And of course, Sarah Superintendent Stone, sorry, just talked about the parcel tax and some of the local donations and fundraising stuff that makes up the local funds. Any questions on that?
I was going to stop and see if there are any questions on anything we've talked about so far.
So in that 12.7 million, that does include school care, AEF, PTAs?
Yes, it does.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
No other questions? Let's go. We can move ahead.
Okay. All right. So again, just to put a slide to something I've already explained, we talked about the base grant. That's what everybody gets. It's like the foundational amount of money. Then we have the supplemental. So it's an additional 20% on top of the base grant. And that, again, is targeted for our English learners, our multilingual learners, our low income and foster youth. And then other districts, AUSD does not qualify for this, but other districts also can get something called concentration dollars. And concentration dollars are for districts where there are quote unquote high need students and that exceed 55% of total enrollment. So a district like West Contra Costa or Oakland Unified, they get concentration dollars. And so you'll see in a slide that we have in a few that kind of what that looks like. So again, I think the key point, I want to drive this home today, if nothing else. Enrollment is how many students we have registered. Average daily attendance is students who actually attend daily. And funding is driven by our average daily attendance, not our enrollment. This is actually something, if people are paying attention, if you're education nerds or budget nerds like I am, you're paying attention. The legislature just had a big conversation about this because the way that we get funded through ADA creates a challenge because we have on our lists all the kids that means if we say we have 100 kids, or let's do it by class level, we have 24 kids. That's a teacher. 19 of them show up, it's still a teacher. We still have to pay for that teacher. Yet we're not being paid for all 24 of them regularly. And so that is where those gaps really come to play. And so in California, they were talking about, and I'm not exactly sure why the legislature isn't moving forward this, again, hopefully after next Tuesday, we'll have a little bit more information about this. But there was some discussion starting about funding for total enrollment and not just for average daily attendance. That's a conversation. So again, for folks who want to advocate for us to get more money, this would be something that's really important for people to go out there and say, why don't you just budget schools based on their total enrollment? Because we're planning for 100 kids. 90 show up every day, but we have 100 on our books. That means we need to pay for 100% of what we're trying to do. Again, another way that we can all help is by getting our kids to school as much as possible. If we have an attendance rate above 95%, we get more money. So if we're at 99%, we get 99% of the dollars. And that we're hoping actually to start to really put out some attendance incentives and things to really kind of boost up our attendance. And again, it's not just for the dollars. I want to be really clear about that. We want our kids to come to school because that's where the learning is taking place. So I think I'm going to ask Linda if you could talk about this budgetary constraints slide a little bit. Sorry, CBOWoo, we're very informal tonight, I apologize.
We've been talking to each other all day. Yeah, so budgetary constraints is, in a lot of ways, it is trying to ensure that we've set aside the funding for the basic stuff that we need to operate a school. So when we look at the budget constraints for like core staffing, as Superintendent Stone mentioned earlier today, in order to run a school, you need teachers, you need custodians, you need clerical staff, and so forth. So those are some of the things that we must do, regardless of what the attendance levels are. In terms of mandated services, we're legally required, to provide specifically for special education. We're legally required to actually provide services based on where all the needs are. In terms of infrastructure, the non-negotiable costs would be how much does it cost to keep the lights on? How much does it cost to keep the water running, right? The utilities, student transportation, facilities maintenance, things break down, we have a leak. We have to fix those things. And then lastly, the fiscal integrity part is ensuring that we're maintaining the 3% minimum reserve requirement. Otherwise, some bad things can happen, to our school district. And also producing multi-year projections that ensure long-term solvency.
Any questions about the constraints or comments? Okay, moving on. So this is that slide I said I was going to show you. It is really hard to see. I apologize. I actually received this through the Alameda County Office of Education. But what I can show you is, this is Albany Unified School District right here. This is all of our revenue sources per ADA across the county. So the way that this looks is that blue, or that periwinkle color, that's the base staffing, or the base funding. Thank you. These other little colors are different funding on top of that. And so what you'll notice is, it's just fascinating. So this is Albany, and you can kind of see where we are across the county. Also, what's not on here that's also, I think, really important is enrollment size. For instance, I believe it's Sunol Glen, who's at the end, is like 500 kids. And Emory is not much more than that, Emory Unified. The purple is local funding. So if you look at Emory, you're like, what? How'd that happen? Well, what industry is in Emeryville? Pixar. So Pixar is helping Emory out. Very nice. I love that. We appreciate that. And wow, that's a lot of revenue there. If you look at some of the other school districts, again, I'm not sure exactly where all the local revenue is coming from, but it is an important thing to look at. So our purple is our parcel tax, and I believe our bond. In these little other colors there, you'll see this is the other state revenue and concentration dollars. Where's Oakland Unified? Oakland Unified's here. Concentration dollars are pretty big. You'll see we don't get those. The concentration's that strange green color. And then, yeah, there's other funding in there. So I think this is an interesting slide because it just gives us a sense across the entire county, kind of where Albany fits in to our revenue. Any questions about this slide? And I apologize for how tiny it is.
Do we know what Piedmont is the other funding source, the local funding source?
Is it a parcel tax? It's a parcel tax? Okay. I don't know, but I'm hearing from people out there that it is a parcel tax. Any other questions about this slide? This slide fascinated me.
It's a good slide. It's a good slide. I mean, because it really shows where we sit on a LCFF perspective, which is kind of towards the bottom of this group. And you can see the good work that the parcel task is doing for us to kind of get us to be much more on par with the rest of the school districts, even if we're not at least getting more towards the middle of the pack, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So that's been an important part of obviously our budget to this point.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on. This is another, again, I apologize how tiny it is, but this is also a really important slide. What I wanted to show is across the different districts, and this is a little bit of an imperfect slide. This was an incredibly hard slide to put together because, as you can imagine, this data had to be collected from each and every district. The county did not create this slide. We created it. But what I wanted to show with this slide is, again, this is Albany right here. And so this gold or orange is our average classified staff, and it's their total compensation. So it's pay and benefits. The purple color is our teaching staff, or our certificated staff. And then the green is administration. And again, this is kind of at the average. Again, what you can see is where Albany kind of sits at this line. You can I keep getting stuck behind this. Okay. Where you can see where we are at this line. You can see where we are. Where are we? We're right there. Where we are here. We're right about there. And then you can see where we are here. And I think this slide matters because, again, if you're thinking about total revenue in districts, you can kind of see, again, I think where some of the districts are prioritizing their dollars. But also, I think it's important, it's important for us to see where we just sit across in terms of total compensation. Questions about this slide or thoughts?
Is data available that breaks that down further? I'm not saying that we have it, but is it available? So, for example, at the bottom I see a note that says that the total compensation includes salary and benefits, approximately 30 to 45%, depending on role. I'm just curious how other districts allocate the total package in terms of benefits versus salary.
It's a great question. I know for some of these the answer, and for others I don't. I can say that, where is it? It's not on here. Huh, weird. Dublin's not on there. Dublin, is it Dublin? I think it's Dublin, doesn't pay any. They used to not pay any benefits. Okay, now they do. So Marina, you might know a little bit more about this group. Which of this group are paying the level of benefits we are, which is full benefits. We pay full benefits for our staff as well as their family, which is actually very, very, very unique. Oakland Unified also does that.
And Emeryville.
And Emeryville does. Others do not, and I'm not sure where the ratio breakdown is.
Fremont, Hayward, they don't contribute towards health benefits. They put the cost of benefits on the salary. Places like Alameda, they only contribute like
Partial.
5,000 or 7,000.
Yeah. So their total compensation is a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit higher, but it's probably more take-home salary. But then people have to pay into their benefits. So Oakland, Albany, are there others on this that we know pay full benefits?
Just Albany.
Just Oakland and Albany?
Oakland, Albany, and
Richmond bargained it, but they're not. They're not in our county.
Yeah, they're not in our county.
And they aren't currently doing it. They bargained it.
And Emeryville.
Emeryville pays the full. Yeah. Okay. But when we talk about that, we're talking about that for all of our staff too. We're talking about that for all of our administrators as well as all of our classified staff. Any other questions, comments, wonderings? Okay.
I have one. Just a comment. What is happening in Oakland with their administrators? That's insane.
Yeah, they also have a very huge district office. Their compensation for their superintendent's quite high. They're also paying for a superintendent that's no longer there, as well as other things that they've. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to comment on that. But I do want to go back to. Whoops, wrong way. I want to go back to again. This slide actually matters when you're looking at that slide, because when you're looking at the total revenue and you're looking at Oakland Unified and all of the funds that they're getting, I mean, no one is getting paid enough revenue. Let's just be clear. There is not a district in California that has enough revenue to do what we need to do for kids. That said, some of these districts have more money. And so how they spend their money ends up being connected to some of these salaries. And so again, we go back to what our values are and how we're enacting our values. What do we value? What do we clearly value that we want to make sure that that we're doing a total compensation package, that we're doing full benefits. Other districts, that's not their core value. Their core value is maybe more money in the pocket, but then those teachers have to pay back into their benefits if they need them, unless they have somebody else that they can rely on. All right. Yeah, go. Question? No? Okay. So this is also something I wanted to look at because the question keeps coming up about our district size, our district office size. So one thing that we didn't really talk about in base staffing, but something that's important is we actually do need a district office to operate our district. Without a district office, it's going to be very hard to pay the bills. It's going to be very hard to make sure our budget is fiscally sound. It's going to be hard to hire people. It's going to be hard to make sure that we get all the books and all of this professional development and all the data and all of the things to the schools that they need. And we have an incredibly lean district office compared to similarly sized districts. That is important to note because we really truly are, if you look across all of our districts, we are the leanest district office. What that means is some of the services that people would like for us to be able to provide, we just cannot provide. If our priority is to provide more of those services or to have more efficiency, then we do have to look at where we are. It's not to say that we need to be a bloated district office, but it is an important piece of the pie and piece of the puzzle. Questions about this or thoughts about this? We have somebody.
Sorry. Go for it. What's the question?
This and like the previous slide, I feel like your question, what percent is spent on administration versus teachers versus classified staff? Because if you take the price per person times the number of people, right? Like it could be that Oakland has 4 administrators. They don't, but let's say they only have 4. That wouldn't actually be a lot of outlay on administrators, even if they paid them all a lot. So do we have that breakdown? No.
We don't, but it's something I would love to see as well. Yeah. The ratio is important. What I can tell you is about our district office. So our district office, unfortunately, part of what we don't have at our district office that some of these other district offices have are clerical staff. We actually do not have clerical staff in our district office, and I think people don't understand that. And so a lot of the people who are in the district office are wearing many hats. And so when questions come in or things we get, I don't even know how many requests we get for public records, but it's actually quite a lot. Somebody has to pull those public records and do the work. We don't actually have anyone to do that. And so that means somebody else has to stop what they're doing and do that. And so it's just, again, this is all about decisions we make. It's about how we want to prioritize and what we want support with and what we don't from the district office. I think it's a good question for us to start thinking about, though, because I think the efficiency part, I've heard that a lot. I've heard, customer service, efficiency, things can get better, communication can be better. Totally agree. There's no question about that. But again, we have to think about how are we supporting the folks to be able to do those things. And I thought it was also interesting, like some of these districts, like what they're spending their money on at a district office. Apparently San Lorenzo is heavily staffed in special education and human resources. Newark has a lead negotiator and a graphic artist. Who knew? We have a pool, which is wonderful. We have a communications support person. And Piedmont has a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and wellness coordinator leadership. Okay, I'm going to just go back. Any other questions about this? Kind of a meaty slide.
Is there any other big group that we're missing, given that our percentage is quite a bit lower besides clerical staff? Or is it?
I mean, I would say that our departments are lean, but I would also say for the number of students we serve, I think we're okay with. I mean, we do need. Okay, so to be honest, I know that Linda would say we need an accountant. We don't have an accountant. That's something we absolutely need. We need an electrician. We don't have an electrician. We need additional, thank you. We need some more tech support, and we don't have that. So yes, thank you for that question. In addition to clerical, there are other positions that would help us to be more efficient. The other thing about that, though, is those positions would potentially help us save money in the long run, because right now we have to outsource for electrician every time. And so potentially if we were to figure out, okay, how do we budget for an electrician so we don't have to pay every time, we might actually end up saving money, might be cost effective. Having an accountant would help us because it would make sure that we are really crisp with our numbers and we are really clear with what we're spending. Not that Linda isn't doing an incredible job with that, but she wears many, many hats. Thank you for that question. Okay, so we are here. Staffing review, budget kickoff, which is today, planning at sites and communicating. Very shortly, this has been a very quick January. We are going to be sitting with our team who's sitting at the tables, talking about their site level budgets. And so it's really, really important that people are really clear that they have a say in what is happening. There are some things that we wish we can do that we just can't afford, but also there are things that we are doing that maybe we don't need to do anymore, and maybe there are other things we should start doing. So it's important, again, that people understand that we're trying to direct resources as close to the classroom as possible. So the base staffing is the essential staffing that we provide to every school based on student enrollment numbers. It can be teachers, principals, secretaries, custodians. We want to make sure every single school is safe and has a professional foundation, that they're operating what they need to operate on every day. Then we have the discretionary dollars, what the school decides to use their money for. So it's a little bit more flexible. The principal and the site council are officially the ones who make the decision about how that money should be spent, because it goes with the site plan. So the site council will approve the site plan. The site plan is the narrative of the dollars. That said, all folks who are connected to schools should have some say in how those discretionary dollars are spent. One thing that we really do need to note, though, is that about 65% of the discretionary dollars really, well, A, it needs to be focused on students, but B, it needs to be spent on non-salary items. So supplies, books, technology, materials, experiences for kids. And sometimes there are services like specialists or workshops or contracts that would help with professional development. Those are things that we think about for discretionary. Questions about this?
Mackenzie.
Sorry.
What's the current process for each admin to discuss with their site for the discretionary?
That is a great question. I'm going to have some of my site leaders answer what they're doing. Or I should say our site leaders. Anyone want to talk about what you've been doing?
It's on? Okay. Great question. Thanks for asking. So what we're doing at Marin is talking with sites about, with our staff. We had a staff meeting talking about budget process, what this looks like and what to expect throughout the spring, along with looking at our one-pagers that we got from CBO Wu last spring to explain how we're spending that money this year and looking forward. So this is what we've allocated money towards this year. And this is the process for how we're going to be defining our priorities for next year. So we're just getting into the bits of that. We've started that conversation with Site Council, and PTA is next.
Yeah, similarly at Cornell, I would also just add that, you know, during this time, we also send out surveys to like our staff, parent groups, students. What are the bigger priorities, right? Like really being able to name, like here we're talking like big buckets of money and big strategies, but then when we start talking, you know, to students, teachers, what does that look like? Does that look like noontime activities? Does that look like, you know, more assemblies? Does that look like more wellness, you know, wellness hours or wellness space time? So
to add on to all of that, because we do similar things, for high school and I think probably also middle school, we also devote certain money specifically to departments for them to spend for their needs. So, for example, like the science department and the visual arts departments for supplies, and that's just a pot of money that's set aside for those departments to use as they need to buy supplies over the course of the school year. And a part of our discussion at the secondary level also involves working with departments and our department chairs for allocating what needs to be department specific versus what's going to be whole school.
Melissa, sorry, I was focusing on a little bit of something else while you were talking, but I know you and I spoke today about the use of data in these conversations. Do you want to highlight that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So specifically for Marin, part of what we've spent a lot of our discretionary dollars on is math intervention over the years. That's something that, you know, I'm interested in moving forward and continuing the conversation with staff and the community around what the priorities are. In the past, we've used surveys and just conversations at meetings for folks to kind of weigh in. And this year, with our emphasis on data, I'm asking our math intervention teacher to put together some data about how successful the math intervention program has been over the last few years so that we can effectively evaluate its effectiveness and whether or not we want to keep it. Part of what we're doing at Marin.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight that. Thank you for that, because I think the most important thing we can do is use data to make these decisions, especially when you're making really hard decisions, because I think one of the things I know being a parent is I want what I want for my kid. I know what I want for my kid, and everybody knows what they want for their kid. And as a whole district, we have to make those hard decisions because what I want for my kids might not be what's the best interest for, you know, the students who need something a little bit more, or it may not be the same as what everybody else wants. So that's why these conversations are really, really important. We need to be thoughtful about also going back to our students who are considered unduplicated students. Those dollars are supposed to directly impact and support those students. So we think about our students who are English or multilingual learners, we think about our foster youth, and we think about our students who come from low-income families. It's important that we're really paying attention to that. And so we have to use the data to see if what we're doing is making a difference for our students.
I think we have another question on the Zoom. See if I can do this. A lot of talk. Okay, Mr. Martinez, I think you're up.
Thank you. I think that, first of all, thank you very much again. And so one of the things that comes to mind is that we are a small district trying to do what other big district does. And what I'm hearing a lot of the budgeting situation is that how do we get there? So, you know, when a small organization, individual is trying to compete with a bigger, you gotta try to see where you can explore technology to come in. So as one of the comments you made in the beginning was, if you're not gonna be in the district, let us know, what are your thoughts for the future? I think having a survey to the teachers and those who retire and everything like that will really help out, because that way in the future you can, and I'm not saying eliminating any position, because everyone in this district is important, but if they're retiring or are transitioning out, then that, to take a look at that opportunity to see where we can upgrade or look at technology to do that portion of that in a way that we don't eliminate anyone. We're just taking the opportunity that is already there when the person is out of that position, and now we can downsize in that because the budget's $145,000 more than the teacher compensation. So that would help kind of minimize that and do it in a way that we're not eliminating anyone. Just my thoughts.
Great, thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay. So again, I wanted to just kind of highlight where the dollars are going in our district. So we talked a little bit about, we do have a pretty lean district office. Most of our dollars go to our school sites, which is great. They should. That's where they should be. They should be closest to the kids. I do want to note that this is not staffing. This is just the total dollars. So this is discretionary dollars as well as staffing dollars. So, you know, there's questions about, oh, what is the 16% going towards? I mean, I would say probably a huge portion of that 16% is going to staffing, but there's also operating costs at a district level that's going to. Also, the district, so the way that it works is if it's a core curriculum that we've adopted, then at the district office level, we make sure that it's ordered and paid for. If it's a supplemental curriculum, something that teachers or schools want to use in addition to that, then they have to think about using their discretionary dollars for it. So, you know, things like Parent Square and having a website and there's a lot of things that are in here. Linda, I don't know if you want to share any of the other things, but I think it's important to note some of these things we actually also have to pay for schools. So not, the 16% isn't just sitting at a district office.
I'd just like to add to that, we're still combing through and evaluating all of our coding on how we've classified like locations and stuff. So this is at first blush. But with some of the offices that exist within the district offices like teaching and learning, curriculum development, we have maintenance and ops, and we have student services. So there's a whole lot of things that actually make up the district office. And if we were to take out the offices, like some of the special ed funding is also in there too. And so if we were to actually dissect this out, I was doing this right before this meeting, that percentage of what's really functioning a district office is closer to like a 10 percentile.
And over time, I would like to get this slide out with more detail to the community. I think it's important, again, for transparency, what's going on. I'd also love to start to be able to break down what is happening in this 84%. Like how much of that is going to staffing versus all of the other supplementary things.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do we know how that breakdown sits for other schools in our district? I mean, in our county?
I don't. I'm sure we could find out a little bit more about that. Do you have a sense, Linda?
I don't have the specifics by the school district, but typically it ranges somewhere between like 15 to 20% that's considered district office. And it coincides basically with what's considered indirect costs.
Sorry, just to follow up. So basically anything that's considered like a shared service, like utilities are sitting in the district budget. Anything that's a any shared service across multiple sites is probably sitting in the district office. Is that the right way to think about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good questions. So we're getting to our one-pager. So on the 22nd, principals, get excited. You're gonna get your one-pager. Your one-pager, this is an example, and I know it's teeny tiny, but it's an example of kind of what's on the one-pager. Ultimately, what you're gonna have on the one-pager, and this is something that can be shared with the community. These are not private, and you know, we don't have staffing information on this, so we can share this. But what it shows is our enrollment projections, our base FTE. FTE means full-time equivalent, how many teachers and other staff we are believe based on that enrollment are going to be needed. what the restricted dollar amount is. So restricted dollars are dollars that have to be used in a very particular kind of way. Unrestricted dollars, which is more discretionary, and this could be, used in multiple different kinds of ways. And the discretionary dollars, which are discretionary dollars can be restricted or unrestricted. I should have done a different slide here. Basically, discretionary dollars are divided between restricted and unrestricted. Did I say that correctly? Okay, good. See, I've learned over the years. Some. I've gotten so much better with this. Okay. So what's going to happen is we have to think about what our funding is based on our enrollment and our attendance. We have to make those decisions by March 15th around staffing based on the enrollment. So if our enrollment goes up, we need more staff. If our enrollment goes down, we will probably need fewer staff. And that's where it gets really tricky with that statutory law, March 15th. It also gets really tricky when you're not getting your full dollars because you're only getting average daily attendance. Again, some funds are discretionary and have to be, or can be spent any kind of way, and many of our funds are restricted. And I think there is some confusion also about, I think when people look at the reserves, there's the 3% of the general fund reserve, and then we do have reserves for some restricted dollars. But those reserves for restricted dollars still have to be used in a particular kind of way. So a good example of that would be Prop 28, which when I first got here, people were like, what's going on with Prop 28? At one point, we had reserves in Prop 28. That was not good. We needed to spend them. They are spent. We are spending them. They have been spent. And so sometimes it looks like we have more reserves than we do, but it's important when you look at the reserves that you're breaking it down by what's general funds and what's restricted. One thing I also want to just be so crystal clear on is one-time funds should not be used for ongoing positions. Part of what you're seeing in other districts across the state is one-time COVID dollars went to people. And those people now are not funded in a position anymore. And so those layoffs are excruciating. We are working really hard, and this goes back to being fiscally responsible, really hard to make decisions that don't do that, because it's not fair. It's not fair to kids, because we start to rely on those positions and we need them, and it's certainly not fair to those people who inhabit those positions. Questions about this slide? Wonderings? Okay. So again, our budget reflects our values, and our job is to reflect our core values with what we're doing and also stay fiscally responsible. So we have to be very intentional. We can't just say, well, we've always spent it this way, so we're always going to do it, because we don't have the same dollars that we had before, so that's part of the problem. But also, our data might tell us something different. We might need to do something different. So we want to really think about, what is our strategic plan? What are our priorities? How are we moving towards that mission and vision? And what are we doing to ensure that each and every student leaves Albany Unified as a 12th grader ready for the world? So we really are working on creating what we would call God, my brain, sorry. We're looking at a cycle. We're looking at building shared understanding, engaging our school communities. Inquiry cycle, that's the word. There it is. We're looking at doing some inquiry, building shared understanding, engaging our school communities, defining our site priorities, finalizing our site budgets, planning for the future, and we're going to keep doing this over and over again. We're not going to just stay static, because if we always do what we always did, we're always going to get what we always got. So this is part of that process. And we are really working on doing this in service of that graduate. So this is our little gingerbread portrait of a graduate. We're really trying to think of, what do we want them to know, be able to do, have in their heart? what kinds of skills are they going to have, and what kind of future can they look forward to. And so we're right here. We're in spring. We're going to start actually talking about this. We're not going to have a completed graduate profile quickly, because this is a conversation that's really important. And I will say that probably the most important people to talk to in this conversation are our students. And so I've been speaking to our student trustees about starting to really engage with students. One thing that they're working really hard on that I'm so appreciative of is creating a superintendent advisory committee of students where I can actually speak directly to students regularly. But we also want to have really robust engagement process for students. But of course, we want all of our staff and all of our families and our outside community to be a part of this process. We are going to be finished with our current LCAP. It was a 3-year cycle, our local control accountability plan. We're going to be finished with it at the end of next year. So we're going to have to write, if we still have LCAP, if that's still what we're doing in California, we're going to have to write a new LCAP. The LCAP was always supposed to be the strategic plan, and it should be one and the same. So if we have a really great, robust strategic plan that we've created based on where we're trying to go with our students, that North Star or that portrait of a graduate, then it's going to be very easy for us to have a robust LCAP. So we're going to be creating that new LCAP based on our graduate profile and our strategic plan. And then we're going to continue to look at our data and our budget, and we're going to continue to plan around it. Questions about this and this process? Okay, well, we're going to do a little activity tonight. We are actually going to have a conversation about what we think today. Again, this is not the graduate profile. This is just this group of people in this space, including people who are in the audience. Everyone can do it at home. If you'd like to join along, you can do that too. But what we're going to do is we are going to do an activity where everybody is going to get a gingerbread Albany person. And what we're trying to do with this activity is, as a community, clarify where we want our kids to go. And then we're going to use this to align our strategies and resources. So tonight, we're just going to do the activity of where do we think we want? Where do I want, I have a 12th grader. Where would I want my 12th grader to be at the end of the year? He's only been here since the beginning of the year. If he'd been here all the way since TK, we'd have a different conversation. But where do we want our kids to go? And once we have this and we've gathered all this information up, we're going to be able to use this again as more data to figure out what is it that we're doing in terms of our planning to make that happen. So here's the activity. Everybody's going to get, and I will need some help passing this out, if people could start doing that maybe. Everybody's going to get their gingerbread friend, and you can use a marker, you can use lots of markers, you can draw, you can write, you can do it however you want. This is your own activity. But what you are trying to convey on your picture or on your writing is what you want students to know. So what academic knowledge, content mastery, foundational skills do you want our students to have when they are standing up in front of thousands of people and Principal McNally is calling their name, handing them their diploma, and then they get to call him Darren afterwards? What do we want those students to know? What do we want them to be able to do? Such as critical thinking, communication, collaboration, problem solving. Just a time check, we have 3 minutes. Just about another minute. Okay, finish up wherever you are. Wherever you are is fine. And here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask for people to find 2 other people, so you'll be in groups of 3. You're gonna find each other, so you're not gonna sit next to the person, you're not gonna talk to the person you're sitting next to, so you're gonna get up and move around a little bit. You're gonna find 2 partners. One person is going to be the person who has to be able to share out what the conversation was, okay? So everybody is gonna, we're gonna have about a 5-minute conversation. It's not gonna be long, it's not gonna be, but you're gonna kind of try to notice what are the things that seem similar and what seem maybe a little different, and then one person's gonna be able to share out. Make sense? So everyone has about 2 minutes to talk and 1 minute to make meeting. Okay, all right, find folks, 2 other people, three total. There has to be a group of 4, that's okay. All right, everyone, we have just a minute left, so if you can make sure everyone's had a chance. Also, make sure you know who's going to report out. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming back. Okay, so now I don't know who is with whom, so we'll just sort of, I'll point to somebody, and somebody from that group that was with that person can report out. So why don't we go ahead and we'll start with the gentleman in the back. David, hi, thank you. Consel, yes, wonderful. Are you reporting out?
I am.
Oh,
yeah.
great, perfect. Okay.
Since I'm not in the circle, Joe will let me.
Yeah.
So
He needs a no.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm loud, but not mic'd. Okay, so now I have to talk more quietly so I don't blow out speakers at home. I think the thing where we really overlapped was both like learning the basics, your reading, writing, arithmetic, but then building upon that foundation to expose kids to a bunch of things they might be interested in, support a passion if they find it, and then give them the skills to go in the world and really pursue that passion, support themselves, their community. And there's also a lot of talk around like community and empathy and connection with other people. I think, did I get it? Do you guys want to add anything? Okay.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Biggs. Principal Pohl. All right.
All right. Hey, friends. Okay, so we were in a group. I was with Dr. Biggs and Josh and Linda, and part of what we talked about was, kids having empathy, a sense of identity, compassion. But part of where we got into a really great conversation, I thought, was need to adapt to a very rapidly changing landscape. It's really challenging for an 18-year-old kid to know exactly what they want to do, leaving high school, and especially with all of, jobs changing, the, technology changing, jobs that we don't even know exist, maybe existing. So having some grit and resilience to be able to adapt to those changes is going to be really important for our graduates.
Thank you. All right, Principal Mapes.
Okay, so I was with Michelle and Dana. It was funny, we were all talking, we started thinking about our own kids when we were doing this. We all have kids who have graduated from high school and seen them as they get ready for their next path in their lives. And so I think the big idea was we want them to be ready and confident to face the world and what might come as the years go by, and that realizing that no one has a straight path from where they are when they graduate from high school to where they end up finding their passion in life. It's a journey, and it's going to have its ups and downs. And so we talked about we want them to have a worldview, and them to see beyond Albany, beyond California, beyond the United States. Be ready for this journey, and we came up with some words that I think other people have used. Kindness is really important in this world. Being empathetic and civic-minded. So rooting those kids, and that all comes from now also having that foundation in academics, and also trying things and failing from them, and being a risk taker, and yeah.
Thank you. All right, I think you and your group's already gone. Principal McNally, your group?
Yeah, so my group was myself, Trustee Hopwood, and Director of Technology, Eric Polovich, and Trustee Hopwood and Mr. Polovich have kids who've graduated from Albany High School and the Albany Unified School District. I'm the one who shakes everybody's hands when they graduate from Albany High School, and if things go according to plan, I have a daughter who will be a 2040 graduate of Albany High School. So, we'll see how that goes. What I think was really interesting to us when we reflected is that we all three focused really on who they are as people and the character traits that we wanted to see them have. And when we talked about it, that came from a place of actually having a lot of confidence in the academic preparation that our kids did receive or will receive, but really actually feeling more need around who they are as people. And so we used a lot of words like resilient and empathetic and accountable and creative. And that's where we had a lot of our common ground.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Brill, are you able to? Oh,
Got you.
Okay. All right.
So my group was
Trustee Khan?
Deb and Marina, and a lot of the things we talked about were actually around like ethical citizenship, financial literacy, life skills, social skills, how to be like engaged within your community, politically aware, a good problem solver, and I think the one thing we really cared about was self-advocacy skills, and also how to take care of yourself once you're done with college. I mean, high school, so like, you know, cooking, all of those kind of skills are things you need, financial literacy are things you need to know to excel beyond high school. We also talked about just competitive core knowledge, critical thinking, cultural empathy and awareness. We talked about restorative justice and having those social skills. Empathy, kindness, compassion, all of those things came up for all of us. And then there was a quote that I used that just kind of came to mind as I was writing everything, which was an MLK quote around service to others is the rent you pay for your room on earth. And I think that's kind of like what we want to instill in our kids. So yeah.
That's really a great quote. Thank you. All right. And I know that our reporter is Trustee Shepard.
So I was with Superintendent Stone and Trustee Boyd, and we talked about being academically and socially prepared, and some things that, like, some examples for academically prepared is like critical thinking skills, and then socially prepared is how to communicate feelings, and then feeling like you're ready for real life, like duties, like college, career, and also just how to live, like dealing with like money and stuff, and like how to like handle being in a house by yourself. And then always feeling that you were supported throughout your AUSD journey and being able to look back at it and be happy with like how you maneuvered it, and then also look back and be confident and happy with how you were treated.
Thank you.
Great, and we have some people who did the activity on Zoom. So let's hear how that went. Allowed to talk. Okay, I think you're up.
Mine is an Albany graduate should understand that they have tools to succeed, be able to apply practical skills such as budgeting, real-world situation, carry the confidence to make a positive impact and change their own future, and stay informed about local, state, national, and global issues to make a thoughtful, informed decision, and always also be humble and caring.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So that was an activity that my goal is that everyone who is connected to Albany Unified School District will have access to that activity, and will give their feedback and their ideas through that activity. And how we do that is going to be kind of one of the things we're asking our board to talk to us about tonight. There are the usual ways of doing it is, and usually the best, is to be in the same room with each other and have those conversations. And I also recognize that it might be hard to get each and every person's opinion in that way. So we want to think about maybe some creative solutions for how we can do it. Definitely there are virtual options, and I'd like for it to be beyond just the regular survey is something I'm thinking about. So there is a lot of value in not only just writing down your own ideas, but hearing everybody else's. So thank you for engaging tonight in that. So from that, we create our system design. So our student outcomes should give us what I call the North Star, where we're trying to get, and then we need to build the road to get there, and that's the systems that we put in place. So that's the learning conditions that we need to put in place for students to get there, the adult actions, how are the adults ensuring that those learning conditions are the right learning conditions, and then what systems and structures need to be at the base of that to make those things happen. And so that is what becomes our strategic plan. Questions or thoughts about that activity? How was that for people?
I discovered that CBO Wu is the artist in our group, at least. The rest of us just wrote down words. She actually drew pictures, so that was a key learning for me at the very least. But no, I
Nice.
thought it was, it is a good way to start putting the things that are in your head on paper and starting to get people, you realize, I think, that a lot of the same values other people have as well, and that's part of obviously what makes us strong as a community. And so I'm actually really excited for the community to kind of go through it, because I think it really gives an opportunity for us to align on what success looks like, and I don't think we often have that conversation. So,
Yeah.
Other comments?
I think I'm most curious to see this activity done by students, just to see what they feel that they need to learn, and are we actually delivering on what they feel they need to learn, or how can we grow and learn from them as well? So just curious about that.
Me too. And actually, I'd love to, yeah, I was going to say, our students who are in the room, how was that for you?
I really enjoyed it. It was like fun to like think about like stuff I've learned throughout my years in the district, and then also like by the time like this time next year, like how I want to feel. And then also just like, because it's like all adults in here, it's really interesting to like hear how you guys care a lot about like who we are as people rather than our academics, because like we are so like defined and like our futures are like kind of on the line based off our like academics. But it's like nice to hear that you guys like care about how we like develop as people as well. And it'd be kind of cool if there's like a way to like also like not like test that, but like also like show that like we've learned that way too. So yeah.
Powerful. Yeah.
I wanted to echo on the part where we focus a lot on the technical things. I really I appreciated the discussion part of it a lot, because I got to hear about the value side a lot more than what I was thinking about originally. And I kind of dismissed it at first. I was more focused on like, I don't know, like core subjects, or like what are you going to do after you graduate? But I think there's a lot of value in that, and so I appreciated that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just thought it was it was really an enlightening process, and I was interested in the fact that we didn't really focus on academics other than it being a kind of foundation. But one thing I was curious about is whether we had any alumni from the district talking about how, you know, when they look back at what they wish they'd known when they graduated high school, because I think so much of what we talked about focused on sort of readiness for life, really. I kind of feel like you don't know what you don't know at the time, and perhaps we might have some alumni or parents of alumni to reflect as well.
That's actually a great idea. And actually, when I did this in a previous district, we did get small groups of alumni to come that were recent alumni, recent grads, but to come back and say what they wished it could have been like. So I think that's a great idea, yeah.
We've got some feedback on the Zoom, so let me try and do that. Okay, I think you're up.
Just want to say, the fact that I was able, as a person with disabilities, sometimes it's hard to be in person anywhere. And the fact that I was able to participate in an activity that's community-based, it made me really feel really good. So I appreciate this activity and the fact that you included me even virtually, everyone virtually. And also, as the students mentioned, it's one of the things that I noticed is that we really focus on how we wanted to see our students as person instead of like drill academics, because that just shows how we, as a parent, I think that the teachers are doing a great job at teaching, and we don't have to worry about the academics, and we can kind of concentrate on what we want to see as a whole person. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so We do have some next steps. In addition to working on the portrait of a graduate or graduate profile activity, we also want to get, we want to receive some feedback from the board about how to best organize discussions about the budgeting process, how to best help people understand the complexity and also all the little bits and pieces. What are the best formats for those dialogues? Maybe there are some creative ideas about how we can get more feedback from more of our community members in a more virtual format, whatever it is. I do want to note that we have 3 upcoming meetings where we are dedicating time to talk about the budget town hall, to get some feedback from folks as well, specific and unique to some of our students who are unduplicated students. And so we're looking at our February 4th, we have our DLAC budget town hall. We are going to do that virtually so that more and more people can attend. And I also want to note that you do not have to be a member of DLAC to be a part of that meeting. Anyone and everyone is welcome to come and share their opinions and to learn. We will also be doing a similar thing February 11th. It is going to be a special education budget town hall. Again, we might focus a little bit more just on how we're supporting, at the DLAC one, how we're supporting our multilingual learners and get more feedback on that. At the special education one, we'll be thinking about supporting our students with special needs. And then also February 25th is our student advisory committee, student achievement committee, not advisory, I always do that wrong. Student Achievement Committee budget town hall. And again, that is the group that helps inform our LCAP, but also is really thinking about achievement across the board. And again, all of these will be virtual. You'll get information about them, and we're looking for people to come in and learn and share their opinions. So now I'd like to turn it over to the board to help us think about how we can, not only through these engagements, but also the site leaders, as they mentioned, are also doing their engagements at their school sites. So any kind of feedback or guidance around this would be very welcome. Thank you.
So one thought I have is I don't think that the community is truly aware of what these town halls are, and they're going out in the regular updates that we're sending. But I think it would be useful if the principals also sent information, and it was a little bit more of a marketing campaign, right? Because I do think, I know people are really busy, but I would suspect that if people really understood what they were going to get to learn tonight, we would have had more people participate. So I think a little blurb from the principals and maybe a few other ways, a few other communications would be helpful to get people here.
I don't know if there's a version of the deck that is translated into different languages, or if that's possible to do on through Parent Square or something like that. I actually think, and I don't know whether maybe it's just I've gotten the information so many times that this time stuck, but I feel like I understood this deck better than I've ever understood any deck about our budget. In timeline, the difficulty around, we don't even know how much money we're going to have, and we're making these choices. It personally has never resonated that clearly for me before. So I think making this deck available in as many different languages as possible, as many different ways as possible, in addition to the virtual meetings that are live and all that, I think would be great. And I agree with what Vice President Inglis said as well.
A few other things I might think about. Even as we think about marketing this conversation, I think thinking about the marketing as how do we empower community members to help us with this challenge. And I think we need to be clear about what we want in terms of whether that is from a fundraising perspective, whether that's from an advocacy perspective, whether that's from an attendance perspective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a bunch of things that I think parents in the community want to do, but they just don't necessarily always know what those things are. And I think if we can use these as an opportunity to both educate and then empower, it could be really powerful or effective, hopefully. And I also think it's probably important to have and I might be signing myself up for some of this, but have some people who aren't specifically within the district there to help as a translation back. We joke about educators can talk in acronyms. And
I guess the word was used earlier was marketing. I think that making sure that all interest groups like really understand, first of all, what is being discussed, what is being like thought about, and then also the impact they can actually make at those events and the interactions activities needs to be really clear. I think specifically for SMAT that best fits that interest group and those constituents that you're trying to serve, and then really hammer in those points that you wanted, again, in the language that best suits them. So I just really wanted to emphasize that again, that there has to be more stuff coming out about these events that are really important.
I agree, and I think from the high school perspective, having information being given out during advisory would be helpful, because then that's all students reached and not just students in specific areas such as leadership. And then also just having the information that's given to us more digestible, because I feel like a lot of students, if they were handed a packet like this, they kind of wouldn't understand any of it. But if it was more visual, for instance, or just more condensed, then I think students would understand it better and then be able to give their thoughts more easier. And also just a way to condense it more, so then they feel like they actually have time to go through it and not, because they might look at this and be like, oh, this is going to take forever. But if it's smaller and more condensed, then they can actually feel like they can process it and then have a response for it.
I have one more comment. Similar to the condensing the information, I think that's true for parents. I think if there really was a one-page, what did I miss with some of the key highlights, they would read it. And then if they found the information interesting, they can go back and look further. But there really were probably a handful of really key nuggets out of there that I think would be helpful for everybody to digest.
I know we don't want to focus on dollars as opposed to education and why it's important for kids to be in school, but I think that might also be something to emphasize, is how impactful attendance would be. What would be the impact of raising our attendance from, say, 95 to 96%? What does that look like, right? For people to really understand that it's important.
All right. Any going once, going twice? Yes. Oh.
Please come to the mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thought on the email from the principals, not that I want to give my wife more work, but asking room parents, at least at the elementary schools, to send out to that smaller contact list could help create back and forth of they can actually explain what the meetings are for, so that there's less of we get a lot of messages as parents, and it's hard to sort through what we really all need to read and what's important. So that's one thing there. I think an activity for potentially parents, maybe others, is if you have a grid of the budget and it's a bunch of it's already shaded in because that has to be spent on salaries. And then, okay, here are all the other buckets we spend money on. Shade in the area that something like that you think each bucket should get, as a way to show priorities of, because we all want extra tutoring, we all want math intervention, we all want reading support, we all want Mr. Lego, right? But we can't have all of it. So just that understanding that the pie gets smaller and smaller as you start adding those things. Okay, and then last thing, I thought there was a lot of value in having multiple stakeholders speak to each other today. Kunsel, you were saying you realized there were some things about values, but I also over-indexed on values, and I was of course you care about requirements A through G, right? There was a moment of just light bulb going off that really was helpful, and we learned something. It wasn't just what we wrote on the paper, right? So I think there is value also in that cross stakeholder talk. That's harder to make happen, but I think has value. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We've got a comment on the Zoom. Okay, should be able to hear you.
So, I'm involved in different groups and also in the parent group. And one of the things that it has been hard to kind of break down is one of the things that it's like kind of to voting. Why am I going to vote if my vote's not going to make a difference? It's just going to be the status quo, right? So why am I going to come to a meeting where my thoughts and what I say, it's either going to be, it's just nothing's going to happen. So getting that away from that, the parents and the students and everything away from that thinking, it only happens when we hold these kind of meetings, when we take it down to the smaller groups, and as the gentleman was saying, breaking it down to the smaller groups, and as others say, having this put in the way that we can also digest it and have it communicate, it's really helpful. And I know how hard it is to always speak in lingo because I have to remember that I'm not in the bank, and not everyone's in the bank world, so I can't talk that jargon. So that also is a great one. And another one that I heard is the language. I would like to see this in Spanish. I like to see this in any other language. That way we can involve other community members and they can understand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We good? Oh. Back to Trustee Shodek.
Yeah, I want to say again, the activities part. I know we were talking about this earlier, but for students, I think some student-run activities and events could be really useful. We're having one soon, I hope. But I think trying, for example, parents too, parent-run activities. I think there's just a more sense of trust with those groups when they're being supported by others in that group. So just something to note, I guess.
All right, I hear a volunteer that you're going to help me run some budget discussions with kids. Great, I love it. All right, just some closing reflection thoughts. We're not going to share out since we're sort of at time, but just thinking about a takeaway you had from tonight, a hope that you have for the budget and planning process, and not everyone has to share, but if anyone wants to share, just one of those. Some key reflections. Or you can think about it in your mind, which is completely fine. One hope I have, and I just want to be really clear about this, is I really do want to hear from our community, and I want to make sure that we're hearing from community members that we don't normally hear from. And so for me, that's really important. And so if other ideas come up about how to access more voices, I'm in. We'll try and figure out how to do it. We may not be able to do everything, but I think gathering the ideas is really important. So thank you so much for engaging in the work tonight. Thank you to our site leaders and our executive team and our extended cabinet for being here tonight. We really appreciate your engagement as well. And I'm going to pass it back over to President Mahoney.
Thank you. That was a fun exercise. I didn't expect to be making gingerbread people or whatever that was, but it was great. Okay, moving on to a couple of action items that we have. The first action item on the agenda is board member school liaison selections. So
I'm so sorry. I want to collect your gingerbreads, so please do not leave with them. Just before you go tonight, just make sure I get them. Thank you.
Noted.
Apologies.
Noted. Just as a reminder for people, board members serve as liaisons to selected school sites, and so in doing so, we attend PTA meetings, site councils, other appropriate school-related events, at our adopted schools. And so at this meeting, we're going to kind of reshuffle the cards, so to speak, and decide on what our school site selections will be for between January and December of this year. I guess before we do that, I'll open it up for if there's any public comment on that subject. Seeing none, I'll enter into the conversation with the board. But before I start, Student Board Trustee Shepherd, do you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, I was just thinking that it would be kind of cool for people to do a different school than they did last year. I don't know if that's already required or not, but like having that be a rule.
I'm certainly a fan of that. Just maybe I should give a reminder of what I believe the current school assignments are. And maybe we should each just go down and say where we currently are, and then we can talk about getting our new ones. I'm currently with the Albany Children's Center and Marin.
The high school.
Cornell?
Ocean View?
EMS.
Great. Does anybody have a passion about what they would like to change to?
Can I ask a question?
Board, yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is there, I think I heard it said at some point that there's perhaps a preference to not have a school where your kid is enrolled. Is that true?
I think that's for us to decide. Speaking personally, I like the idea of being able to get a broad sense of what's going on in the district, and I know as a parent of a high schooler, I get some of that already. Having said that, I'm also empathetic to the fact that, boy, I could simplify my meeting schedule if I had fewer meetings to go to. So I don't think we have a published, but the intent is to be able to have a good sense of what's going on in the district across the board. Other questions? Okay. Yes, Vice President Inglis.
I support being able to stay with my school, but if you're going to make me switch, I'm going to go to AMS.
Okay. Well, I don't know that this is I don't think I make people switch, but I do. I have points of preference, but other people I'd like to hear where else they'd like to go.
I would like to go to Marin and ACC, if possible. I have not been allocated or served either of those.
Right.
I'm happy to take the high school.
Right.
No, I don't know. I'm happy to stay at AMS, but I'm also cool going somewhere else too.
I think you'd get Vice President Inglis's second choice would be the AMS. So if you could switch to either Cornell or Ocean View, that would make life easier.
Cornell is a block from my house, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Great.
That's an option.
Let me. I'm not sure how that went, but I'm going to declare victory on that. Okay, so Vice President Inglis, you've got AMS. I think that means I have Ocean View by like a process of elimination, which I'm very excited about. Trustee Hopwood, you've got Marin and ACC. School, thanks. And Cornell for you. Yes, okay. Great. I don't think we approve that or motion that or anything like that, or do we? We do? All right. I guess I'll make the motion since I wrote it all down. I'm going to make a motion that we accept the following school assignments: Albany Children's Center, Trustee Hopwood; Cornell Elementary School, Trustee Boyd; Marin Elementary School, Trustee Hopwood; Ocean View, myself; Albany Middle School, Trustee Inglis; and AHS, Trustee Khan.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Great. The motion passes. And thank you. So now we move on to committee assignments. This is a fun first day as. Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Would you like me to put the spreadsheet up on the screen so
that would be lovely. And just I'll give some context, and then we'll take any public comment, and then we'll move on to the arm wrestling and negotiation. We also do committee assignments between January and December of 2026. There are some committees that are specific to the board that are board assigned that we must have members to, and there are others where we will actually be, and there's others where we will be attending. There's a long list of them that is going to be brought up on the screen. There are a couple of new ones that we should probably bring some context to. The two newest ones, I think, are the Albany City of the AUSD City of Albany Alignment Team and the UC Giltrap Community Farm Advisory Committee. Those are the two final ones on the list. Superintendent Stone, maybe you could talk a little bit about those two, just to provide context for both the board and the community.
Yes. So the Giltract Committee is, advisory is something that I believe we had a member on previously. It is a group that is, there are members from UC Berkeley, Giltract, I believe the city, and they're asking for somebody from our board to also represent. I think that they have started to meet. It would be very important, I think, for us to get somebody to start going to those meetings as soon as possible. So that one is sort of a done deal. I think the other one, oh, and we also have a note about the Wellness Committee, that actually is an inaccurate committee, that doesn't exist. So we're taking that off. The newer committee, and again, it's something that had existed in the past, but I'd like to talk about it tonight and get a sense of if anyone would like to be on it. I am currently speaking with the city manager of Albany Unified. In fact, she and I are speaking tomorrow to talk about how we can just create more communication, more consistent communication between not just she and I, but also the city council and our board. And so in the past, there had been a Brown Act committee that existed. We're not interested in creating another Brown Act committee. We're more interested in creating, having one board member who would join myself and our city manager and somebody from the city council, perhaps the mayor, but not regularly, not as a big formal meeting, but more as a check-in meeting and when we need to have those conversations. So she and I are still having conversations about it. It's not a done deal. She and I have not yet decided if we want it to propose that it is one of the Brown Act committees or not, but I wanted to just have that conversation tonight to get a sense of if anyone's interested, and if so, great. Then when she and I have moved forward, we can bring that back to you.
So I sort of think we should engage in this. I think it's super important, and I mean, I'd be interested in doing it. I'm not excited about another committee, but I do think it's important work that needs to be done. But if other people have strong feelings, obviously, feel free to speak up.
I'm interested too, but I mean, it depends very much on if city manager wants the mayor to take part, then I think it should be you as the kind of counterpart. But I think, I mean, it's something that I've met with John Mickey over the break to discuss, and it's something that I hoped we would resurrect at some point since I've been on the board. So yeah, absolutely. But obviously, once you've had an opportunity to figure that out, be too unhappy.
Same. That was also something that I'd spoken to previous mayors about bringing it back, and at the time, obviously, the conversation didn't go forward, but I would love to see it come back because it's important for us to know what's going on with the city, but also the city negotiates with UC, and we don't get any funding from the UC, even though we serve a large population, and it'd be nice to have a voice and active, communication and negotiations with them.
Great. So it sounds like as that moves forward, TBD, you've got some eager trustees to engage in that.
Great. So we'll bring that back after it's more solidified. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I guess before we go to committee assignments, I should do public. Is there any public comment on the potential committee assignments? Seeing none, we will move on to the discussion and arm wrestling and debate over who should go on what committee. Would it be easiest just to go top of the list and move our way down? I'm looking for head nods. Yes, I'm seeing head nods and some audible yeses. So the board policy committee is typically, my understanding is the board president plus one other board member. So I'll sign up for that one.
Can I take this moment to mention that our student trustees can attend any meetings that you would like? Do not have to sign up for one specific one. But if you would like to come regularly, we would love it.
Is there any interest among other board members to be part of the policy committee? Trustee Shepherd is interested, so that would be actually really good input, but I still need another non-student board member.
So currently it's, I was serving on that as board president, and Vice President Inglis was serving as the other trustee, who was also then the secretary of that committee, and I was the chair. So we definitely do need another.
Yep, I need another one. I think I'm
I'm
looking at Trustee Boyd, reluctantly waving her hand. She's smiling and nodding. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. All right, the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. This meets every couple months. I'm currently on this one. Actually, I'm fine staying with this one unless people want to. If anyone is interested in it, feel free to raise your hand. I have a feeling that I'm not going to get a lot of competition.
It's more so because of the timing and location that it doesn't work. That's the problem. It's not the topic, I promise.
Excellent, excellent. So I have successfully kept my position on the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee.
We'll just put you down for all of the committees.
Yeah, I've like, all right, Facilities Master Planning Committee. I'm actually on this one already. Is there anyone, and I'm on I'm not sure if it actually makes sense to switch midway through, but we can certainly do that if people are interested in this. And I suppose we could have 2 members on it, if that's of interest to people.
I would be interested in this one,
Yeah.
but I'm happy to share it.
Okay. Not passionate? Okay. So if I said I was still interested in keeping it, you'd be fine with that? Okay, great. We're going to go president and vice president on that one. Technology Master Planning Committee. I'm on this one. I'm leading one of the subgroups right now. Do we have anybody else from the board on that one? I don't think so. I should at least get my subcommittee through the process. Anybody else want to join me? No.
We could also do how we could
Yeah.
do this, because I have my eye on some that I might be interested
Great.
in. So I'm
That's
just
fine.
wondering whether otherwise it's going to be like Josh is going to be on
Yeah,
all of them, and
I'm like tapping out, guys.
because of course if ones I'm interested in other people are too, then we can
Yeah.
default
Okay. Fair
to
enough.
others.
Let's we'll keep going with our first pass. Student Achievement Committee.
Done that.
Trustee Shepherd has raised her hand. Trustee Boyd raised her hand. I guess that's maybe we should just do like raise your hand sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Trustee Boyd. The aforementioned, we only need one, right? Correct? Yes. We can have 2, I realize, yes, thank you. I want to at least get all the boxes filled in. DLAC, the English Learner Advisory Committee. Trustee Hopwood, she's in.
Finally.
She's on the board. Special Education Advisory Committee. Oh, I got 3 hands with authority, which is great. We got Trustee Khan, Trustee Hopwood, and Trustee Shepherd, which is all good. Yeah, all 3 can go. That's amazing. This is working out better than I expected. The All Instructional Leadership Team.
So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, what's the plan
Superintendent
for
Stone,
that?
because that's another new one for trustees, right?
Yeah, well, it's an offering. The all district instructional leadership team is a group of teachers, principals, assistant principals, and executive team members, and they are basically an advisory to all things instruction that are going on in the district at a kind of like a closer level. So looking at things like coherence across the schools, schedules, things around multi-tiered systems of support, looking at data, things like that.
I mean,
I would do it too, so.
Okay, why don't we do, why don't you two do it? Trustee Hopwood and Vice President Inglis.
Yes, yeah.
The Superintendent's Equity Council.
I will wrestle someone for this one.
I like we had one raised hand and one authoritative voice, so that's good. That the good news is that also added up to 2. Yeah. Well, did Trustee Shepard raise her hand? Sorry. And then we're waiting on the AUSD City of Albany alignment team. Are we selecting someone for Guild Tract?
We need, yes,
Yeah,
please.
Because it's TBD, yes.
No,
Great.
it should not be TBD.
It is kind of fun that actually it's always ended up with 2.
That's right, no, not me.
No, it's Vice President Inglis and Trustee Khan. That was much easier than I thought it was going to be. You don't want it? Okay. No one doubts your ability. The question was your desire. It's great, fantastic. So Trustee Khan as well. Yes, question.
Can I hear more about the Equity Council? I just want to know what do you guys do? I know what the goal is, but what do you what is a meeting like a normal meeting look like? I'm just kind of
Yeah, I mean the goal for that group is to really just continue to focus on how are we ensuring that there is a sense of belonging for each and every student across the district, and so currently there is the way it's we've only met. We met last year. We haven't met this year yet. But currently, our parent and family-led affinity groups, there's a leader from each group that comes and meets. And then again, there are some staff from different schools, a few of our site leaders, executive team members. And the goal is to really just kind of continue that conversation of how are we ensuring that each and every student feels a sense of belonging in our district.
Can I sign up for that?
Yeah.
Also, wait, can I sign up? Sorry, I was thinking about it, but can I also sign up for the Student Achievement Committee as well? Sorry, I'm a little behind right now.
Yeah.
And again, you both can come to any committee meetings that
You
you
guys
would
are
like.
lucky.
You can come to all of them.
And I have another thing for you. Okay, so we think we have it. Do you want to, can I have a motion to accept what's up there on the spreadsheet as our assignments?
I move to allocate as per the spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And seriously, thank you for making that a lot less painful than I thought it might be. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. We just have one item today before we move on to conversation or just action on the consent calendar. Is there any comment from the public? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Great, and now I think we're moving on into closed session. In closed session today, we're going to talk about potential litigation, personnel matters, public employee performance evaluation, and a negotiations update. Before we go into closed session, is there any comment from the public? Oh, nope. Nope. You're on.
Thank you very much for today, and I really appreciate the meeting. I just wanted to say that.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, so now We will dismiss to closed session. We're reconvening from
Morning in
closed
progress.
session. Reconvening from closed session, where the board took no action. I move to adjourn tonight's meeting at 10 o'clock.
I second. Oh,
All-
Claudia seconds.
Sadia seconded.
Needs Trustee Boyd here too.
Trustee Boyd.
Oh, here we are.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. I'm going to bang the gavel because I can.